Metiria Turei.
Tēnā koutou, Mr Speaker. Tēnā koutou. Te whare, my question is to the Prime Minister and asks, does he stand by all his statements?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, yes.
Supplementary.
Order. Supplementary question, Metiria Turei.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Why did he say that homes in Auckland are more affordable than homes in London, New York, Singapore, Melbourne, Sydney and Brisbane, when according to the OECD they are actually much more expensive relative to income than almost anywhere in the developed world?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, I think the member's wrong in her facts.
Supplementary question, Metiria Turei.
Is the Prime Minister saying to young Aucklanders that they are not locked out of the housing market when they know too well that they are locked out by rising rents, high LVRs, $600,000 plus median house prices, and with student loans to pay off to boot?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Well, Mr Speaker, for a start off, if the member wants to take a cursory look at Trade Me and refines her search to Auckland, there are currently over 2,000 properties listed under $400,000. Mr Speaker, most people that can go to the bank and get a loan of 80%, obviously subject to their mortgage, but some can actually get more than that because LVR restrictions are overall, not in total. But Mr Speaker, the reality is no one's arguing that Auckland's the cheapest place to buy a house. We're just arguing that the government is taking a lot of steps to help address that with its special housing area, and it was more unaffordable under Labor.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Metiria Turei.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Would the Prime Minister then be surprised to learn that on Trade Me yesterday, excluding those properties without their own freehold land, like removable homes and apartments, there were actually just 11 three-bedroom or larger homes in Auckland City for sale below $300,000, just 11, and just 36 for sale below $400,000.
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Well, Mr Speaker, the member is putting all sorts of conditions around, but there are over 2,000 properties under $400,000 in Auckland. But Mr Speaker, that's the very point why the government has actually released and worked with the Auckland Council for there to be 39,000 sections released. What is that member doing? I know. That member's standing in the way of the Resource Management Act that would help speed up the land. The member's doing what she always does, cry crocodile tears, but actually not prepared to do anything about it.
Supplementary. Supplementary.
Order. Point of order, Metiria Turei.
Oh, excuse me, Mr Speaker, supplementary.
Oh, supplementary question, Metiria Turei.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Can the Prime Minister confirm that house prices in Auckland under National's 5 years in government have risen by the same dollar amount as they did in the previous 9 years under Labor, about $187,000 per home? And when will he start taking responsibility for the housing crisis rather than denying it exists?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, what I can confirm is under the Roost Index, which is by far the best measure, they were more unaffordable under the previous government than under ours. But, Mr Speaker, to run through it, this is the responsibility this government's taking. We've organised a housing accord with Auckland. 39,000 consents will be issued over the next 3 years. We've suspended duties and tariffs on imported trading building materials. We've reformed legislation to limit development contributions. We've made some changes to the RMA and we'd like to make more. We've increased the addition of welcome home loans and Kiwi first home deposits. Mr Speaker, we've built a strong and robust economy with the support of New Zealanders and their businesses to see them in jobs. What we do know is no one will be able to afford a house if they lose their job, which under a Labor Greens government, many of them will.
Supplementary.
Order. Supplementary question, Metiria Turei.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Isn't the answer to the housing crisis include a major state house building program so that those who need a house to rent or buy can get it, and a capital gains tax to prevent investment driving up prices and ensuring that those who are making money off property pay tax just like the rest of us, helping to build a sustainable economy with real jobs?
Right, Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, given that a capital gains tax includes the majority of homes, I can only make the assumption, the member might want to correct this, but I can only make the assumption what the member is telling the New Zealand Parliament is that under the Green Party, if they were part of a government, every home will have a capital gains tax on it. That's an interesting assertion.
Point of order, sir.
Order.
Point of
order,
Thank you,
Metiria Turei.
Sir, you've previously ruled that it's not necessarily appropriate for other parties to talk about other political parties' policy. That's all the Prime Minister did. He did not address the question of whether a capital gains tax, excluding the family home, and a major state house building program was part of the solution to the housing crisis.
The difficulty is the member herself brought in, effectively, alternative politics in her supplementary question. Supplementary question, Metiria Turei.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Is the Prime Minister basing his assumptions about home affordability on his own personal experience of owning several properties offshore? And doesn't that show how staggeringly out of touch he is with young Kiwi families trying to buy a modest 3-bedroom home in Auckland? Staggeringly out of touch.
Right, Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, no, but what it does show is that the Greens, whenever they start losing an argument, get personal. And I think Jan Logie is a very interesting person to reflect on her own comments and the decorum of this Parliament. And actually, the Green Party used to say, under the old leadership, that they stood up for decent values. That is clearly now gone, and all New Zealanders should understand that the Greens have turned into the nasty party.
Order. Is this a supplementary question?
Yes, thank you.
Supplementary
no, it's a
question.
Point of order, Mr Speaker.
Sorry?
Point of order, Mr Speaker.
Point of order, the Honourable David Cunningham.
Seek leave to table a transcript from Hansard of the Prime Minister advising the Leader of the Green Party to park his horse up.
Will resume his seat. We don't use the tabling of documents then to attempt to table Hansard. Question number 4, Honourable David Parker.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister